Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're jumping right into a massive shift happening in the marketing world. Major brands are actively transforming themselves into media studios. But more importantly, we're going to show you exactly how your company can achieve that same cinematic, documentary-level quality without taking on the crushing overhead of building a studio totally from scratch.
Forbes hit the nail on the head recently with a really striking observation. The writing's on the wall, right? The era of just running a few traditional ads a year is completely over. We are seeing a massive shift toward high-volume, story-led brand content. Consumers today expect immersive, polished, cinema-quality storytelling, even from non-media companies. And to keep up with that escalating demand, brands absolutely have to rethink how they produce video.
So here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll look at the brand studio boom. Second, the internal studio trap. Third, the Evervolve AI solution. Fourth, a tiered service advantage. And finally, measuring content success.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, the brand studio boom.
The demand for authentic, documentary-style storytelling is entirely reshaping the marketing landscape. It's wild to see, but household names are literally building their own Hollywood-style content pipelines. They aren't just making product commercials anymore. They want to own their narratives and actually build culture. Chick-fil-A is exploring launching its own streaming platform with original programming. Dick's Sporting Goods launched an entire in-house studio called Cookie Jar and a Dream Studios that's totally dedicated to documentary storytelling. Nike built an incredible flagship facility, Icon Studios LA. These brands realize that to stand out today, you basically have to operate like a media network.
But that brings us to Section 2, the internal studio trap.
Look, if you aren't Nike or Chick-fil-A, jumping headfirst into this trend comes with some severe financial risks. You basically have two traditional choices to scale up your video output, and honestly, they both kind of hurt. You could stick with the traditional high-end agency model, sure, but at $100,000 to $250,000 per single film, outsourcing everything on a call-for-bid basis is just incredibly inefficient for high volume. On the flip side, you could decide to bring it all inside, but building your own internal facility, that requires a staggering capital expenditure.
We are talking $600,000 to over $1 million. Ouch. Just let that sink in for a second. That massive figure is what it realistically costs in year one just to get a proper internal studio running. You're paying for high-end camera equipment, lighting, volume stages, expensive real estate, and a full-time staff of producers, directors, and editors. And remember, that's before you've even shot your first successful brand documentary. It is a huge operational risk.
So let's talk solutions in Section 3, the Evervolve AI solution.
This glaring financial roadblock is exactly why we need to look at the modern alternative. Evervolve AI completely changes the math here. They are positioned as an outsourced embedded production partner. So, instead of acting as a one-off vendor that you call when you desperately need a single commercial, they act as your dedicated production wing. They enable any business to produce film-level cinematic content at a fraction of the cost and time of an internal studio.
How do they actually do it? Well, Evervolve slashes those traditional timelines and budgets by deeply integrating AI and modern workflows at every single stage. We're talking about AI-assisted concept and script acceleration to get ideas off the ground way faster. They use AI tools for rapid editing and versioning, which means they can easily cut a hero film into a dozen social modules in no time. They utilize cloud-based asset management so your entire team has access to the footage, and they can seamlessly localize content into multiple languages for global markets without reinventing the wheel. It's a real game-changer for operational efficiency.
And because they control this full-spectrum pipeline, they maintain a film-grade narrative from the initial idea all the way to final delivery. They handle the strategy, the shoot, the AI-assisted post-production, and the multi-platform distribution. Because they run the whole engine, they dramatically reduce turnaround time while keeping the quality incredibly high.
Moving right along to Section 4, a tiered service advantage. This is where the strategy gets really accessible for companies of any size. Evervolve offers 3 aggressive pricing tiers that create immediate ROI. If you're a startup, the starter tier gets you a short film and social modules for around $40,000 to $70,000 a year. Mid-sized national brands can leverage the growth tier for around $190,000 to $330,000, giving you a full branded documentary plus multiple modules delivered monthly. And for global brands, the enterprise tier provides a dedicated embedded multi-film pipeline. It is entirely scalable to exactly what you need.
Just to put this operational benefit into perspective, for the starter studio tier, you're paying roughly $40,000 to $70,000 a year.
Meanwhile, hiring just one single mid-level internal producer is going to cost you $80,000 or more. And hey, that doesn't even include their equipment, their software licenses, or the rest of the crew. For less than the cost of a single new hire, your brand gets an entire outsourced production engine for the year.
Plus, because it's structured as a long-term retainer, the partnership benefits literally compound over time. You get an embedded account lead who actually understands your brand's voice. You get multi-year consistency. They even offer a really flexible hibernation mode if you need to pause production without losing your dedicated team. Best of all, your brand accumulates a reusable shared IP and brand asset library. That means motion graphics, B-roll, and templates are reused, which drives down your future production costs even further.
Finally, let's wrap things up with Section 5, Measuring Content Success.
At the end of the day, an outsourced model has to prove its worth to the C-suite with hard data, right? Evervolve AI allows you to actively track very specific operational metrics. You can look at the asset reuse rate to see how efficiently you're utilizing existing footage. You can track the turnaround time from concept to delivery. You monitor content engagement, but most importantly, you track the cost per delivered minute. When you compare the cost per delivered minute of Evervolve's AI-enabled tier system against the industry benchmarks of traditional agencies or internal studios, the financial advantage becomes mathematically undeniable.
So, I really hope this explainer gave you a powerful new perspective on the future of corporate content production. The tools to build a cinematic brand are more accessible than ever, provided you use the right strategic model. And it leaves us with this absolutely critical question for your own media strategy. Is your brand ready to truly tell its story, or are you still just paying a premium to make commercials? Think about it. Thanks for joining me, and keep learning.